evening, everybody, and welcome to RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress podcast. We have a special edition tonight. We are talking about Thanksgiving and Rhode Islanders and things that have been going on during COVID and how we're all dealing. I have a couple of special guests with me tonight. I have Pat Ford with me tonight, who is the head of the Coalition Talk Radio with us tonight, who without him, I wouldn't be able to have this podcast. And I also have Anthony Soly with me tonight, who runs his own food truck, who he started during COVID, Sunny Side on the Street. So I have two very good gentlemen tonight, and we're going to be talking all things COVID, Thanksgiving, holidays, and just how we can turn our spirits around and raise light for everybody tonight. So welcome, gentlemen. I'm glad to have you tonight.
Hey, Tina. It's great to be on.
Thank you for having me, Tina.
Hey, Pat, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, is how we usually start off, and let's get started that way.
All right, great. Well, my name is Pat Ford. For Rhode Islanders, if I'm known at all, it's because I'm the chair of the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island. The Coalition Talk Radio is an independent effort that started actually in about 2013 because of my frustration with local media. I felt that local media really didn't do a very good job focusing on what I call the third rail issues, the difficult issues of the day, the challenges. You've got the station of record, the television station of record, which will break into international news with literally an auto crash or some type of car crash on channels, somewhere on Route 37. And then you've got hardworking Channel 12, which, puts in a hell of an effort, but can't ever seem to make traction. Some outstanding journalists there. And there's some good people at Channel 10, but overall my frustration was that I believe to this day that the Providence Journal is biased and is bought and sold for their own economic interests as opposed to being an independent reporting paper. And, of course, I'm very frustrated with Rhode Island government, never more so than today as we reach the apex, if you will, of this second corona wave. And so we started a little broadcast on a local internet station, radio only. Then we went to AM 790, and then we went to the big WPRO AM 630. Then we, realizing that we were putting together some of the best shows that weren't ever being listened to, we were on a Saturday night on AM radio. We went digital, and we spent a couple of productive years at Go Local Prov. And I had the opportunity. We found the right space, and we thought the timing was right. About a month or so before the dreaded COVID plague hit, we decided, why not start our own studio? Why not? And we found this beautiful space in Providence, the capital city, or as I like to call it, the naked city, the city of a couple 100,000 stories. And we were going to build out the space and put up a little set, and then COVID hit. Fortunately, we put our efforts into being able to do remote broadcasts like this without the sort of cheesy interruptions that you get with so many of the major broadcast players in town are literally, and it can be amusing at times, literally broadcasting out of their child's bedroom who'd gone to college. You can see, tossed up posters falling down, and there's an element of Wayne's World to it. Now, we don't take ourselves this seriously here, but the issues are. We run programming right now 3 nights a week. There is, of course, RAMP, which I will talk about in a second. On Tuesdays, we have Pump Up the Volume. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we have a variety of guests. We're going to be focusing on the small business community starting tonight with our guest, Tony. And then later on tonight, a gentleman by the name of Mike Fleury, who has recently purchased a restaurant. Yes, he purchased a restaurant in the middle of the COVID plague. Talk about, as we say from New Jersey, talk about stones. But we want to focus, even in terms of our business reporting, on the positives. Rhode Islanders who own local businesses supporting local communities who we need to, in turn, throw our support to. And when it comes to issues, we cover everything. We, shows like RAMP do an incredible job of every week bringing new light to the challenges, the progress, the assets, the innovation out there in supporting folks who are facing a variety of physical challenges. It's astonishing programming. Pump Up the Volume. Dr. Luis Daniel Munoz, Bill Bartholomew, Scott Rotundo, and myself currently. And we've had a couple of other great folks on, focusing on COVID and the crisis in what we call the inner core, the inner cities, if you will, Pawtucket, Central Falls, Providence, and how the failure of government, let's just say the success in government of taking over virtually every aspect of our lives, from my perspective, And then their failure to execute properly has left us, I think, in a terrible position with regard to the pandemic. And we talk about really challenging issues like that, and they have great guests on. And then the coalition, we cover sex worker rights, labor issues, decriminalization of a variety of human behaviors. We cover immigration. We bring candidates on, independent candidates, independent businesses, all this stuff for whatever reason, this incredible barrage of local media can't seem to find time to do. It's astonishing to me after all these years that we've got so much local media locally and so little of it is informative at any level. That's not because these people aren't wonderful people. I think it's the legacy media that we're so familiar with, the Providence Journals of the world, the Channel 10s of the world. As they fade gently into that good night, they're going to be replaced by people who specialize in quick hits on issues, and then people like us who perform long-form interviews and discussions. And we have people from around the country join us. Andy Hernandez is a professor at the Western New Mexico University. I met him when we were down in Mexico broadcasting live to cover the refugee crisis on the Mexican border. I met him, a local professor, has done astonishing work on the drug wars, border issues. So we have him on every few weeks to discuss real-world issues from the perspective of someone who lives, 35 miles from the Mexican border. Connor Dragotis has started joining us recently, a young man who teaches at the university level already, and also works with a variety of companies in the liberty space, messaging and educating folks about their own personal liberties and how they can, amplify the quality of their life using, the personal liberties that they were handed to at birth. On and on. I probably missed a few people. The Goldwater Institute, we've had FEE, AIER, all of these folks over, Tina, incredibly enough, we've been on the air for going on 8 years. So it's a lot of fun. We're looking to take, now that the election's over, and we can all get out of our collective obsession, if you will, with everything Trump and everything Biden and everything Republican versus Democrat. And let's get down to doing what you do every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock here at coalitionradionetwork.com or facebook.com/coalitionradio. And that is improving the quality of people's lives. And that's our mission here. So, long answer to a short question, but this has been my vision for a number of years, and we're trying to take it to the next level.
It's absolutely amazing what you do because it's so true. Because I'll tell you, having somebody in the disability community highlighted on 10, 12, or 6, it's either something that's very inspirational that out of the blue, somebody did something kind to us because, we're only good when somebody does something for us, or if there's something really bad that somebody did something against us. But what about all of the space in between that the disability community does? We do so much good. There is so many resources out there. And there's people like me who are out and about every single day, and I'm not inspiring because my shoes match and my pants match and my hair's brushed, because trust me, if you see me like that, an hour later, I may not look like that anymore because life happens too. It's all good. And when you can't feel your legs, I 90% of the time forget my shoes because it's not like I'm going to bump my foot or step in a puddle and realize I don't have shoes on. So we're not inspirational. We may do some things that are inspirational, but there's a lot more to this community than just what they post on the local news. But I want to get to Tony, and I want Tony to tell everybody a little bit about us, because Tony is one of those people who had the big kahunas to start a business in the middle of COVID, and it's doing awesome. So Tony, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Hey, Tina, how are you? I decided to leave corporate America after, 25 years, give or take. I've been with my previous employer 21. I was in the industry 4 years previous to joining them. So I pretty much right out of high school, I got into the profession I was in. And I basically got burnt out. I ran into some issues, personal issues, that I've dealt with all my life. I have some depression issues, stuff like that, and it just kind of came to a head. And everyone, I've been asked a million times about the circumstances and, if COVID played a role. And I hate blaming COVID. I actually kind of thank COVID for it, what I went through sucked and it wasn't fun. But on the same token, it gave me that boost to kind of get up and do something for myself and something that I'm enjoying doing. And I feel like $1 million now. So, that's my silver lining to COVID. It put my family and myself through some hardships, but at the same token, it opened up a door. And I probably would have taken the leap into starting this food truck had I not run into the issues I had this year. So COVID's been one of those things where it's a grind every day now for me, but I'm enjoying it.
Well, tell us a little bit about your food truck. You can't use us like that.
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, I had kicked around the idea of starting a breakfast food truck. I had been working the door on and off for some friends at some clubs down in Providence, and I was always amazed at how there was never breakfast food readily available after people leaving the bars. But IHOP was always hopping in the middle of the night when I would drive by on my way home. So, about 5-7 years ago, I was like, I can't believe there's no breakfast food truck. And even today, there's a brunch truck, and there's a couple of trucks that serve breakfast items, but they don't specialize in breakfast food. So, back when I was young, a teenager, I cooked in a diner, and I loved cooking breakfast. And I said, you know what, I'm going to start a breakfast food truck. So I started Side on the Street this year, and we serve traditional breakfast items, but we also serve a lot of plays on your traditional breakfast items. So we do a stuffed grilled cheese French toast, which is it sounds like it's French toast with the grill that became grilled cheese, and we stuff it with Gastro's craft meats or some bacon or ham, whatever you want, and then we drizzle it with some syrup. We do our take on a quesadilla, which is 2 pancakes, cheeses, and breakfast meats and syrup and that. So we do a lot of fun takes on the norm. The menu kind of rotates for the most part. If you see us out Monday to Friday, you're gonna get your egg sandwiches and stuff like that. And we'll make the specialty items too. But at an event, you'll see more of the specialty items, deep fried French toast, stuff like that.
Now,
Yeah,
first
those
of all,
heart attack home fries look good.
Yeah, so the Heart Attack home fries have been getting rave reviews. It's almost if I portion it correctly, it's almost a full pound of home fries, bacon, sausage, ham, 3 cheese blend, and you can get it with an egg on top. So.
Yeah, you're making me hungry thinking about it.
So wait a minute, are we saying you're going to replace wieners as the perfect breakfast food on Sunday morning, early Sunday mornings, the real Sunday mornings at like 4 o'clock?
I don't know. Can you really replace wieners? I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one.
You're a Rhode Islander. You cannot replace the wiener. You can add to it. You cannot replace the wiener.
See. Now I'm gonna have to go to the New York system this week and try to figure out a way to work it into a breakfast item.
Oh man!
There you go. Isn't it so true though, Tony, that in this day and age, like you said, with everything that you were going through and with everything that you're dealing with, it makes you stronger, and life has a plan for you, and life puts you in the right place at the right time. Like, I fully believe that with all of my cancers and my strokes, and ended up in a wheelchair 6 years ago, and I should be down and out, depressed and miserable, and you know what I mean? And I found it made me stronger, and it gave me a new passion, and it gave me a way to get up every day. And now I can get up every day and make somebody else's day, and that makes my day. Do you find that to be true too?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I would say in the last 5 years, pretty miserable with corporate America, and maybe even going back a little bit longer than that. But I noticed it in the last 5 years. My dad got sick in roughly about 5 years ago. It had been longer than that, but I had started taking care of him 5 years ago. He had dementia, and as his life progressed and my life progressed with him, I realized that, there came a turning point in my life where I decided that I didn't live to work anymore. I worked because I needed to make a living. And unfortunately, corporate America doesn't believe that. Corporate America believes, like the old song says, sell your soul to a company store. It's kind of like that. And, I wanted to do my 40 hours and go home sort of thing, and I started transitioning to that where I do my 40 hours and go home. But then it was always, all right, now, we're changing shifts, or we're going on call, or we're doing this, or we're doing that. And it gets to that point where, I was miserable. Like, I was legitimately miserable, and I was napping. I wasn't sleeping anymore. I was working overnights because, not because I had to, but I've been with the company 21 years. I could have gotten on day shift, but because I had to take care of my father. So I knew if I put him to bed at night, I could go to work, and I'd be relatively safe to come home in the morning, get him up in the morning, give him his medications, make sure he eats breakfast, stuff like that. So I would nap a few hours a day and just, wash, rinse, repeat sort of thing. And you're right. Like, I went through everything. My dad passed away in February. COVID hit in March, and then in June I just kind of lost it. I think it was the perfect storm of everything. But like I said, at the end of the day, you're right. It's the best I've felt in years, and it's the easiest I've talked about it. I've had conversations with my wife, with my kids, that I haven't had ever with them, about what I've dealt with, from youth until today. So, the fact that I can openly talk about it, I'm the assistant women's basketball coach at a university. I actually sat and talked with my team about suicide prevention, stuff like that. So, I've become a lot more vocal. You're right. I think we should be down and out because we hit some hard times, and I just kind of grabbed it and went with it. I was making a good salary. I had benefits. I had a pension plan. I had a retirement package. I had, you name it. And I was like, I'm ready to walk away and just do my own thing and figure it out. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm the happiest. I'm legitimately the happiest I've ever been.
That's great. Pat, what about you? How has it all turned around for you?
Well, it's been a challenging year. It's clearly, if you're in the media business, the advertising market is rocky at best. But you have to place yourself in the shoes of these folks who are running these day-to-day businesses, where literally every day is a fight for survival. You can't get bitter about it. You can't get frustrated. You have to find ways to engage in positive action. You have to take control. I've spent the last 20 years of my life, if you will, advocating against government. And the reason I do so is not because the people who work there are evil, well, most of them anyway. Not that they're uncaring, because I believe most of them do care. Most of them think they're doing the right thing. But we live in a time now when people have essentially placed their fates and their fortunes in the hand of government. And we have to break that cycle now more so than ever. It should be abundantly clear after the events of particularly the last month or so, that government is not your friend. Government is not going to bail you out. Government is going to act in their own best self-interest, which means the survival of government. And as a result, Rhode Islanders have to get back to relying on other Rhode Islanders to help them out. And there's no better way to do that than to support the businesses owned by Rhode Islanders, because keeping that money in town, keeping that money in the house, keeping that money between us, and keeping us all as busy as we can be during these challenging times is the best antidote for everything. Tony, let me ask you something. When you're sitting in front of a crowd of 7 or 8 people who are in line to buy some chow at your truck, you're not thinking about COVID, are you? You're not thinking about the bills. You're not thinking about anything other than the fact that you're doing the work that makes you happy, and that amazing feedback you get when you see people lighting into one of your sandwiches. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's just it. I don't think about any of it, and everything's a regulation, everything's a tax, everything's something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think about any of it. At the end of the day, I want people to enjoy my food, buy my food, and like you said, you got to keep the money in house. I wish I could source everything locally. We're still starting out, so I can't. But I source a lot of my breakfast meats locally. So I rent my commissary from a craft meat place. So Gastro's Craft Meats has helped me out immensely. Just trying to keep that money in house. Like don't give it out to the big guys if we don't have to.
Right. And I'm not, listen, I am never going to knock the people who work at the big box stores. They're Rhode Islanders as well. But let's be honest. When you buy something at the big box store, yeah, you support some local folks. And again, they work their asses off. I watched the Stop and Shop strike. It seems like years ago, right? Of just this past year. And I watched in horror as other Rhode Islanders berated employees of Stop and Shop for simply trying to get a better deal. Everybody wants a better deal, right? I mean, who would turn away a better deal? And they wanted a fair deal, and they wanted to be treated fairly. And these people have worked heroically in the face of this disease, literally meeting and greeting thousands of customers a day. But if we are going to survive this period, then we have to look to each other for support. And if we can grow small businesses back to where they were, and at least keep our head above water during this crazy mess that this government has taken. I mean, essentially, government has taken a very difficult situation that they were handed. They didn't create this, but they were so poorly prepared. They've handled it so ineptly that, as I like to say, I have seen the enemy and he is us. So what we have to do as Rhode Islanders is single-handedly, through work, sweat equity, like the two of you are doing, like my guest later tonight, Mike, and so many people that I know, and just through sheer physical will, we have to lift ourselves up so that our fellow Rhode Islanders who may be subject to the fate and fortunes of these faraway businesses get an opportunity to work somewhere local, and maybe at a higher level, and maybe for a little bit more scuttle, as the late Vincent A. Buddy Cianci used to say. And maybe as a result, our communities start to get resources from work done in our community. And then all of a sudden, those folks realize that, maybe we'll get back to something that seems to be lost these days because government is so overreaching. That's volunteering. And so maybe people will volunteer for different causes in their community. And then all of a sudden, that's one less government department we need. And then all of a sudden, folks will look at their neighbors and see them as not just someone passing in the night, but as teammates and coworkers and fellow board members of organizations and fellow volunteers. And that's when we can recreate the bonds of community. We need to forget. We need to leave Rhode Island government in the dust. And that, Tina, long answer to a short question as always. I'm not exactly short of words, am I? But that will continue to be my mission forever. So we get to that point where we can look at this, these meanderings, these hallucinations, these delusions of grandeur, these constant flourishes of mental masturbation that takes place at so many levels of government, and say enough. And leave them in the dust which they so richly deserve.
I mean, it's so true. I mean, like I said, I do value the people who work at the big box stores like Walmart and Target and stuff like that. But it's the little stores that we need to support, just like the little organizations and the nonprofits. Because I'll tell you, RAMP has truly flourished during all of this. It's opened people's eyes because we educate and advocate about the disability community and things that we've been told for years. You can't work from home. You can't work from a computer. You can't go to a doctor's office virtually because we don't have access to get in. And it all turned around in a month, and everybody's doing it now. So the way I look at it is everybody got a small glimpse into the disabled community and to what we deal with on a daily basis. When the world opens up in a little while and you guys all get to go back into all of these places, there'll still be places that we can't access. But because I've made so many common core connections with real people in Rhode Island and beyond, they're going to open up their business with the idea of, I want to let Tina and her friends in because we've now become friends and I like what she stands for and I like what they stand for, that people are more conscious of what we're going through and we become stronger together, because no one is going to get through this alone. We all need each other in one way, shape, or form of another. We need to do this together. Like, I met Tony far before he did his truck. He supported me on one of the pageant missions that I did. And, you know, he was all about the disabled community. I'm going to help him make his fruit truck more accessible. He's open to that idea. So this is how you make community. One person leads to another and you all work together and you make it happen. And you do it in a positive way. Like I said, no one is inaccessible maliciously. They are because they don't know any better. But now that they've met me and they've talked to me and they've heard me speak, they look at it at a whole new view and they see that it can actually be easily affordable. And basically, we're fighting to get into your places to give you our money. So we're begging to give you money. So help us give you our money, because we have friends and family that we want to give you money. So we help the bottom line, but it's true. It's the small businesses and the small organizations that we want to highlight and we want to work together with, because it's them who are the backbone of this country. They're the ones who make the real difference in this country, and we need to support them in everything that we have.
Tina, I'm trying to remember. How did you and I meet? Who introduced us?
I don't even remember how we met. It's been so long now.
But it's only been about 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, I think it was Bill Bartholomew who ended up connecting us somehow, because I was on a few of his talk shows, and you know, Bill believes in my message and, you know, and what I do, and we're good friends, and I think we met through him. But like I said, I mean, I have 3,500 volunteer hours in just this year in a wheelchair from my home for the most part. We just got, my organization, who's a little over a year old, just took home the 2020 Caregiver of the Year Organization Award from Rhode Island this year. I got who's who nationally and worldwide this year. So in a world where everything is falling apart, if you look at it through different eyes and a new perspective, it could be really a good thing, because you're meeting people that you would never have met before. Me and Pat would have probably never have met if it wasn't for this pandemic. You know what I mean? Me and Tony might not have his food truck if it wasn't for this pandemic. You know, friends and family and people, and the food drive that I'm doing and the Christmas drive that I'm doing anonymously, because it's not a photo op. It's legitimately helping Rhode Islanders becomes contagious, and other Rhode Islanders help more Rhode Islanders. We've helped over 150 people in the last 2 weeks just by word of mouth, all anonymously, by collecting food, packaging them up in a plain brown package, and dropping them on somebody's porch. That there's no eye contact, there's no, you know, photo op, there's no nothing. You're making connections with people that you would never make before all of this. So look at it through new eyes and look at it from a different way and count your blessings. Be grateful for what you have and not what you want. How do you feel about that, Tony?
Well, you know, it's funny. I actually think, you know, as we're talking and having this dialogue, you know, brings to mind, you know, we've all seen it either on social media or maybe even in person, where like someone loses their mind over a regulation, right? On the clerk at the grocery store, the teller at the bank. Listen, it's not the 18-year-old kid or the 14-year-old kid or the 60-year-old woman or the 45-year-old man that's making the rules, right? You want to be mad at the government. Be mad at the government for making the rules, right? You know, don't be mad at the store owner for trying to save their business and run their business. And I think, you know, there's two ways to look at this. And, you know, COVID, I probably would have been all sorts of pissed off, right? Like that was my mentality. You know, I going angry, going mad. And now, you know, I kind of just roll with the punches. I think you can take this opportunity to actually reflect and look around and see what's going on in the world and going on just in small business. Like, you can walk in and that teller doesn't want to tell you, or that cashier does not want to tell you to put a mask on, right? Like, I don't want to wear one, right? But I'm also not going to risk getting you sick or getting a family member sick, or, you know, so at the end of the day, I'm not going to take my political complaint to the cashier that's telling me to put a mask on. It's just not going to happen. So I think this actually gives us an opportunity to just be better people. And like I said, it gives us the opportunity. Like, you know, I'm trying right now. You know, we got the big Black Friday, right? Black Friday's coming up, and I hear all these people focusing on Black Friday. I'm like, well, what about Small Business Saturday, right? Like, I prefer Small Business Saturday, and not even because I'm a small business owner, but because at the end of the day, I understand that friends of mine may work at big box retailers, members of my community work at big box retailers, but at the end of the day, they may hurt, but they're not going to hurt as much as the mom and pop retail store down the corner. They're the ones that are really going to take the restaurant down the street. Mrs. Smith's Diner is going to take the hit. Is McDonald's? Probably not, right? So at the end of the day, I look at it and go, this is an opportunity. I'll spend a couple more extra dollars. It's really put things in perspective. COVID's put things into perspective for me, not only as a business owner, but as just a human being. Like you said, I met you a couple of years ago by chance, maybe, or maybe a year and a half chance. It might have been 2 years by now. I think was it through Justin? Was it through Justin Oakley?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. And back then, if you had told me that, and we're not here to talk about my other business, but if you had told me I would start my other business when I did, I would have laughed at you, because I had no intention and no knowledge of home safety and commercial and residential safety. It wasn't until it was out of necessity to take care of my father that I learned it, right? Just like I'm sure a lot of people learn things out of necessity. And I think that you can use what's going on today as that stepping stone to learn, to volunteer, to give where you can give, and donate where you can donate. And what people here donate, and it's tough, all right? There's a lot of people out of work. You don't have to donate money. You can donate. It's just as people need time donated just as much as they need money donated. Effort. I mean, it takes nothing to share a Facebook post. It takes nothing to retweet something, to like something, to drive those metrics, to drive people to your pages. That all helps small business. It helps nonprofits. It helps radio shows. It helps everything. And that's where like I said, we have this opportunity now that we haven't. We had it in the past, but we were blind to it in the past, right? We just kind of lived our lives and did our things because everything was easy. Now it's not so easy anymore.
I really believe that COVID slowed us all down to take a long, hard look at our lives. The people that are working from home right now are learning if they like their husband or wife right now, or their children, or the jobs that they're in, or more dogs have been adopted from kennels during this time because they needed that compassion. They're helping out at more organizations because, like I said, I've had more volunteers than ever for RAMP during this time, and at the Habitat for Humanity House, people who I don't even know who wanted to reach out and just wanted to do something good to change all of the bad in the world. They just wanted to do something good. And it's true. I mean, if you can't donate to a fundraiser, share it, because somebody that on your friends list might be able to help support that or might need what we provide. You don't know how many times that friends, strangers have shared RAMP, and people have come out of the woodwork like, I need your resources. I need what you know how to do. I need your help to do that. So just by sharing or liking or retweeting or being a simple gesture can change everything for somebody. And I really believe COVID slowed us down and made us take a long, hard look at the things because we have the extra time now to do it. Look at how many people are buying houses out of the cities and in the back skirts because they can work from home and they're spending more time with their families. You know what I mean? It's really changed the way we see the world. And I hope the good part of this is going to resonate and stay. What do you think, Pat?
I think it has to. Even with the vaccine, you've got a couple of sea changes, if you will, have taken place. Number one, as you can imagine, there's an immense level of investment taking place on Wall Street as a result, in and out to the variety of Silicon Valleys around the country to develop higher levels of video networking. There's the demand for this is making the reality of remote work possible. You think back to really crummy versions of Skype a couple of years ago and net meeting and things like that, which were just terrible. And you look back to earlier versions of Zoom a year ago where you've just had to go through 20 different configurations. To run this show, we send out a couple of links to people. They click on it. Our producer brings them in the show, and it's astonishing. There's all sorts of things we're going to start taking advantage of over the coming weeks, including dropping down pictures and videos. And so there's an immense amount of money flooding into this, what they would call this space. So now that train has started, ain't nothing going to stop it. It's and the effects are going to be profound. As you pointed out so aptly, folks now are home with each other. That whole love thing has really got to work because you're probably together a whole hell of a lot more. So if all of a sudden you find yourself whistling, "I've lost that love and feeling," or better yet, "Paradise by the Dashboard Light," because I'm waiting for the end of time to hurry up and arrive. Because if I have to spend another minute with you, I don't think that I could barely survive. All right. And by the way, that was the first recitation of a Meatloaf song in the show's history. If all of a sudden that's what's coming to your mind, in the immortal words of one of the great philosophers of the 20th century, Rutrow, we got a problem. So number two, the airlines, permanent change. And I'm going to throw out just a tech issue, which is I know nothing about, so I'm completely unqualified to speak on it, which makes me perfect for local media, right? The less I know, the more I'll talk about it. Shame on the airlines. It's for all these years not having taken the time to develop ways just to be simply better at filtering air and working with closed air loops. I mean, I'm someone who flew a lot up until this year. And every time I went on a plane, I came home in 3 or 4 days, I had a cold. Every single time. So you know what? It's too late. The cat's out of the bag. Folks now all of a sudden can save, businesses can save thousands of dollars. As a result, airport, hotel and airfares, traffic is way down. And folks can be more productive. Now, that will impact the quality of work because if you're like me, you look forward to those trips that you complained about. Because secretly, you were hanging out in a hotel and maybe hotel sleep and going out to dinner. Well, those days, are also over because of the economics of our work environments right now. That's changed. But ultimately, the flip side of the economy will be, because there's something in economics called the substitution effect. And what happens is the substitution effect is you stop spending money on something, that money doesn't go away, you simply spend it on other things. So now all of a sudden, my clients in my day life who are contractors are backed up for years in some cases because the money that people are going to spend traveling, they're investing into their own home. So anytime you have a market economy, you will go through these gyrations. There will be turbulence. You will occasionally be asked to go into the crash position, but there is a comeback and there is a rebound. It's just in places unanticipated. In the same way that, Uber forever changed, in most cases, eliminate what we knew as the cab business. So too is COVID wreaking all sorts of havoc on the ways we used to do business. And it's forcing us to do business in a smarter, more efficient way because we have to. So, when you look at the impacts of the last year, for me, we're able to seamlessly draw in people from around the country, in some cases already around the world, to participate in conversations of a high quality without lag, without any of those issues that were so prevalent a year ago, 2 years ago. And I can't even imagine what it's going to be like in a few months. So yes, it will change business. And to those that can adapt will go the spoils, and those that can't simply won't survive. And that's why
It's true.
we have to work together.
Yeah. Well, look at the whole idea by bringing up Uber. We used to tell everybody, don't talk to strangers, don't get in a car with somebody you don't know, and now we call up somebody we don't know to pick us up in a car by ourselves to bring us someplace. So, it's the way of the world. And don't even get me started on the airlines, because I love to fly. I have not flown in 6 years in my wheelchair because they haven't figured out that a wheelchair is precious cargo. And every time somebody in a wheelchair flies, they destroy their wheelchair. And I have a $40,000 wheelchair, so I can't risk it being let's get together, people, and let's figure this out, that you're now taking my only means of transportation when I get off this plane, and you're treating it like it's a garbage thing and you're destroying it. It's crazy. So yeah, people need to learn to adapt, and people need to have better procedures, and people need to just do better, and they need to think of other people, and they just need to do better.
Well, it's fascinating because, Tina, one of the impacts of your show in my life is, and this almost sounds cliche, but it's heartfelt, is in through your eyes, I see issues in a completely different perspective. And you just mentioned one of them. For the notion, how can I say it? I want to say this carefully. I've gotten the sense for years that mass transportation, whether it be the Riptor, whether it be, Amtrak, whether it be the buses, whether it be the airlines, think that they're doing you a favor by letting you spend your money and your time on their services. And it's when I think about it now, because I've kind of been woke to this, it's galling, and it's got to be appalling for someone like you who is looking to travel, and there are vast companies who appear to, from seeing through your eyes, completely chosen to ignore your valuable presence in the marketplace.
My motorized wheelchair does not fit on a regular Ripta bus. So they have the ride program, which is great, but they will only pick you up if you're within 3/4 of a mile from a bus stop. What does a bus stop have to do with it? Even if I could get my wheelchair to the bus stop, my chair does not fit on the bus. So
which is idiotic. I mean, the same thing happened at the veterans home. You had veterans in Bristol who couldn't get out of the fire doors because
they built the new veterans home doors smaller than the old veterans home. Well, the whole premises of building something new is to make it bigger and better, not worse for the people who have to live there. They have to replace 22 doors because they built the doors too small for the veterans to get through in their wheelchairs.
It's the first abiding principle. Tony, I love your reaction to this because I want to get into your adventures in getting your business off the ground. The first issue with government, they should pledge to do no harm. Tony, does government do no harm?
Physical?
Mental?
Mental, financial. No, the problem with government, let me rephrase that. I'm not going to say the problem with government. My belief in the problem of government is that you have a bunch of people, and I was one of them. I was an elected official. You have a bunch of people that pass laws, legislation, ordinances that know nothing about them. They do the best they can with the information they have, but they know nothing about them. I mean, it is what it is. In learning the food truck industry and studying ordinances, every town has its own. They're all different. And my own town, I'm looking at my town's ordinance, and I'm like, this ordinance doesn't make sense. It's because they don't know what to do. So they throw this stuff out there to hopefully protect the brick and mortar, which is fine. But the ordinance is so restrictive that it doesn't make sense, right? Like in my town, they want to know where you're going to be, what time you're going to be there, what days of the week you're going to be there. And when I was talking to the town council, I said, well, that's kind of hard to say. I said, while you would like to be in the same place every Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., if it's raining this Wednesday, I may not be there Wednesday. I may be there Thursday, which might be a normal day off. But that's not the way their ordinance is written, right? So government can get in the way of a lot of progress, and it gets in the way in progress with business. It gets in the way of progress with living life. I mean, you see it. Hey, Ruth, how are you? You see it. Tina sees it all the time. I mean, government puts in these regulations, and I'm sure Tina knows this. Meets the minimum standard, right? Meets the minimum standard. There was a big to do in my town recently. They're talking about adding some restrooms, and right now there's a porta potty at the sports complex, and it wasn't handicap accessible. And I said, well, it's easy to say run to the school when you can run, right? It's not easy to say run to the school when you can't run. And if you've ever had to maneuver a wheelchair in and out of a handicap restroom, it's not as easy as people make it sound, right? They're like, oh, well, it's a handicap accessible restroom. It meets the minimum standard. The doorway is the size it needs to be, and that's about it. Two people aren't getting in there.
It's not even minimum standard, because there are so many restaurants that I have gone in, and I've actually gone to the manager, and they're like, our restroom is handicap accessible. I said, no. Just because you have that cute little sticker on the door, come with me, and I will show you how my wheelchair does it. So they are so embarrassed. I mean, I know it's not their problem because they didn't build it. They're the manager of the store. And I'll just say, this is why I'm trying to tell you that just because the sticker is there, look at how my wheelchair doesn't fit in. Look at how you made this long, and I don't have 9-foot arms where I can shut the door behind me, or you can't have no turning radius. That people don't understand that just because that sticker's there does not mean it's accessible. We have a hospital in this state, and I won't name it because I don't throw people out like that not one bathroom in the hospital fits my wheelchair. Not one bathroom. I went to the hospital for a small test, and the nurse said to me, why don't you leave your chair here on the outside of the bathroom and just walk to the toilet? I said, number one, as a nurse, if you can't figure out what you just said is completely wrong, like I don't need my wheelchair, you're not taking care of me when I'm out, because that's not happening. You know what I mean? She must have just been having a bad day. Like, I'm not calling, you know what I mean? Like, what? But that's what people say. They just don't think before they open their mouth, and they don't realize that what they're saying is actually harming somebody else.
Well, and here's the most galling part. When you look at, let's just take both your situation, so many of these facilities who've built these handicapped, we'll call them allegedly handicapped access restroom facilities.
I like that.
All right, and then you look at what we've done with COVID. Restaurants have spent an enormous amount of money, sometimes their own, sometimes the taxpayers, utilizing government suggestions with these propane heaters and these igloos. And, when, quite frankly, they probably would have been better off just holding on to the dough. But all of the work from government about the size and the scope of the bathroom facilities for you, Tina, and all the work in behalf of these restaurant owners who, by no fault of their own, have had government just make the decision on their behalf to shut them down. They've gone in and spent all this additional money, and whether it be because of just sheer incompetence in whether or not that equipment will actually work, or worse yet, after having spent, in many cases, the last capital that they've got, been shut down anyway. That's the idiocracy behind this recent, whatever they're calling it this week, where businesses just went out and spent fortunes adapting to a set of rules, only to have the rules pulled out from underneath them without any ability for them to have any input. It's ludicrous.
They moved all of the restaurants to have this outdoor initiative. Great. Well, where are they going to put their extra tables? right outside their front door. Well, what's usually right outside the front door but the handicap parking spots? So what they did is they moved outdoors to accommodate everybody in the handicap parking spots and didn't make other handicap parking spots. So now they just deleted all of us disabled people who use a van to get out now can't get out, and we can't enjoy your restaurant anyway because you have no parking for us. So what they did to fix one episode, they just hurt a whole community.
Wow. Again, here I am. I wouldn't have ever thought of that. I just wouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, and to piggyback on that, I mean, for the government in the food truck industry, years ago, probably about 3 to 5 years ago, there was really no state level regulation. Well, there was, but it was kind of like the Wild West, right? So the state came in and said, all right, we're going to put these permit process in place, this licensing process in place, and then the towns can charge up to $75, the cities and towns can charge up to $75 to get permits from for these trucks to operate. So I go through the licensing process with the state, right? I have my food safety manager's course. I get the truck license. I get a commissary. I get my tax certificate. I get my fire inspection. I get all this stuff done. I pay all my taxes, all my fees, and then I go to and I'll just pick Providence. I go to Providence, and Providence says, "Okay, we need a copy of X, Y, and Z," and it's everything that I just got from the state. And I say, well, the state won't issue me a mobile food establishment permit without having all of that stuff. So realistically, the city of Providence, you should need the permit I have from the state to have an establishment and my money, but they want all of it, right? So now, and then every town wants all of it. So it's this government red tape that takes, in Providence, it took me almost like 3 weeks to a month to get my license for Providence. North Smithfield was a couple weeks. Cumberland was relatively quick. Pawtucket was almost instantaneous. But there's some cities and towns that are just, they're so far behind, and they're just duplicating what the state's already doing, right? So you got the state having you do all this legwork, and then the town coming in right behind it doing the same exact legwork. And all the town really needs to see is I can't operate without the state license. So if I have the state license, it means I passed the fire inspection. It means that I passed the health inspection. It means I have a commissary. It means my truck's insured. It means my truck's registered. As a town, you shouldn't need to see all that stuff. Just, I hate saying it, but take my money and see my permit and just give me a license to operate in your town.
Now they'll make you go through all of that. And without naming any names, there is a food truck that parks every day outside of Providence City Hall at 5 o'clock to God only knows when. And you know where they park? In 2 handicapped spots right outside of City Hall. Like, parking isn't a nightmare enough in Providence at night. Now you're going to take 2 valuable handicapped spots to park a food truck there that's not accessible. Right across the street from Providence City Hall is a 7-Eleven who has a handicap door that lets you in. They lock it. They lock the door. I went there. I banged on the door. The guy finally let me in and locked the door behind me. I said, now realize this. If there's a fire or there's a shooting or there's a problem in this store, you just trapped me in your store. So you basically just kidnapped me in your store because I need you to let me out because you have the key behind the counter. And he made me wait until he cashed out 9 other people before he finally let me out of the store. Now, how is that okay? And this is right outside the front door of Providence City Hall. Nobody's holding anybody accountable.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what I said earlier. You got a bunch of people making rules that don't know what the rules should be. I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of it. And I think it's at the city level, the state level, and at the federal level. I mean, I don't think any of them do an exceptional job. People want to protect resources or protect X, Y, and Z, and I'll use a stop sign for example. A bunch of neighbors get together. They decide they want a stop sign. They go to the town. The town says, "Let's put in a stop sign." They put in the stop sign, but then the other neighborhood on the other side of the stop sign didn't want the stop sign. There's another 100 people that say they don't, right? Well, you took care of one problem to create another. And that's a lot of times what the government does, right? They think they're taking care of a problem, but in actuality, they're creating a secondary problem. And I think we're actually seeing that with COVID. I think, when the biggest problem I have with COVID regulations as a small business owner, there's two. One is they're ever changing. And I mean, they're constantly changing, but they're contradictory. This bar has to close at this hour, and Pat, I know you've been all over this, but Twin Rivers Bar can stay open late, or this has to close, or this has to have so many people, but, this quasi-government agency doesn't have to follow that rule. So that's, as a small business owner, that's the issue I have with it. With my food truck, the knock on wood, the saving grace I have is no one's like hanging out in the food truck eating, right? So you're kind of getting food and going. So as long as I keep people socially distanced outside of the truck, which we do a pretty good job of, we put hand sanitizer out there. We wear masks. We wear gloves when we're handling food. We try to always wear gloves when we're even handing the bags out to people. But on the same token, for restaurants, you're putting these regulations in, and then 10 minutes later, a week later, 2 weeks later, the regulation changes, the rule changes. I laughed when I heard about this pause. Is that what they call it now? The pause that's coming up on the 30th.
Right.
Yeah.
Some call it the pause. I call it the purge.
Right. So we're pausing on the 30th. We got to make sure we can get through Black Friday and Small Business Saturday, and then we can slow stuff down again, right? So get some tax revenue before we shut it all down. But I laughed when I heard that, because I was sitting there going, well, if it was bad enough, why aren't we pausing last week when it was bad enough? Why are we waiting till why are we waiting till the 30th to pause? And honestly, if I have to pause, or being in the food truck business, I've met a lot of great brick and mortar restaurant owners, and listening to the trials and tribulations that they're having to go through now. I feel bad for them. Like I was talking to a sandwich shop owner the other day. He makes his own cookies, and I was like, well, if there's a way I can wholesale them off you and it helps you out, I'll wholesale them off you. And you know what I mean? Because I know they're going to get, the shops are going to get hit again. I mean, they just are. You can see it coming.
Wow.
The scariest part to this whole thing is if we go into crisis care mode, what people don't realize is the first people who are turned away is this disability community, because we're not important. We're expendable. You know what I mean? So they just discount us, or diagnosis for cancer or heart attacks or strokes or anything are going to be delayed. And people are going to not only die from COVID, they're going to be dying from everything else. So yeah, if this pause was so important, why didn't we pause it immediately instead of waiting? You know what I mean? And wait till the numbers go so far up that now you're putting a whole nother community and people at risk, because now you're turning them away at the hospitals. Pat, I know you have something to say on that.
Yeah. I take this sick illness very, very seriously. I just do. I don't doubt for a moment that it's real. I know that'll put me at odds with my buddies. There's a lot of people out there who are so suspicious of the government. I don't think I'm well past that. I'm at the point in life where I realize how incompetent and inept the government is. To give them the credit to be able to pull something like this is I just they can't wipe their on a daily basis. Never mind orchestrate a pandemic. The same token, the question remains. I'm looking at right now at the American Cancer Society Cancer Statistics Center. And the estimated deaths by cancer type, or let's just say estimated new cases of breast cancer are 1,020. Lung cancer, 900. Where is the sense of urgency towards, if you will, outlawing cigarettes. Now, I don't believe in outlawing cigarettes. I believe in personal choice. If people want to smoke cigarettes, they should do that. For a lot of reasons, it works for people. Okay. Everybody knows how that movie ends. And yet, if you take breast cancer and lung cancer by type in 2020, that exceeds, the number of deaths, if you will, by COVID. I know that's incidences versus death. But, all right, so estimated deaths 2020 by lung cancer, according to the American Cancer Society in Rhode Island, is 540. The state makes a lot of money off of smokes. The state makes a lot of money off of Twin River. Is that the differential?
It's sad because I'll tell you, if I wasn't diagnosed early with my breast cancer or diagnosed early with my bladder cancer, the 4 times that I've had them, I wouldn't be here right now. And just to go through all of that treatment, the chemo and the radiation and everything else that you have to go through with nobody by your side, with nobody with you, they're letting disabled people right now who are nonverbal in the hospitals with nobody with them to speak for them. That's one against the law because you have to have an advocate for you, especially when you're nonverbal. But they're not letting them in because of the whole COVID thing and keeping people safe. But you're not keeping the person that you're taking care of right now safe. You're not doing right by them. So that's why mental health is off, suicide is up, everything else is up. So trying to fix one problem, you're making everything else worse, and you're prolonging everything else, and more people are going to die from other things than COVID if people don't stop taking all of this seriously and stop doing the right thing. Tony?
Well, Pat, you said something interesting where you said, is the differentiator the revenue, right? Whether it's revenue from smokes, whether it's revenue from Twin River, and we heard the governor on her press conference a few weeks back, and it might have even been in response to one of your questions where she had mentioned about that the Twin River is the third largest, I think it was the third largest taxpayer in the state of Rhode Island. And I think you and I actually had this conversation post that interview where it was, how about you take all the small business owners and add us all together and see how much tax revenue we contribute to the state. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that are hurting. It's not, I'm sure Twin River's hurting, but we're all hurting too. So you still want my tax revenue. It's a pittance compared to what you're getting from Twin River, but you add up mine with everyone else, every other small business owner, every other diner, every other mom and pop shop, every other convenience store, I bet you we add up close to Twin River, and that's the problem I have with that. You see that big dollar figure that Twin River's kicking in, but you don't see those thousands or even hundreds of thousands from the smaller businesses that they're putting into tax revenue as a big deal, because it's not that huge lump sum that you're getting from a Twin River.
Right.
No, I hear you.
With our hour wrapping up, I want you to leave us with some final words, Tony. What is the biggest takeaway that you want? And I want you also to plug your food truck in this. Give us your final take and plug your food truck about Thanksgiving and COVID and how people should, end their year.
So, my food truck's Sunnyside on the street. We're a breakfast food truck. You'll see us out all over. I mean, we're all over. But, I think for Thanksgiving, we just all got to be thankful that, we have a situation that we're being faced with that is like none that any of us have ever faced before. And we're getting through it. It's not easy. We're getting through it, maybe with some help, maybe without help. But I think we can be thankful for each other. Be thankful for what you do have. Be thankful for the stuff you've lost right now to this point, because you can still get it back, right? I think this has given me the perspective that Thanksgiving in years past, and I mean, I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my friends. I'm thankful for a roof over my head. That's great. And trust me, I'm not minimizing those things whatsoever. But I'm actually thankful for the opportunity that I was given this year. And I mean, like I said, COVID gave it to me to where it actually opened my eyes and made me realize that, there's more going on in this world than, working a corporate America job 9 to 5 and just, seek your passion, do what you want to do. Don't be beholden to anyone but yourself or your family. I mean, the first person that's going to help you out is yourself. So, I mean, this year has been awesome. I think we need to finish out the year. If there's one thing I hope the viewers of this podcast and the listeners heart is that as the year comes to a close, at the end of the day, if you're, upset, pissed off, whatever, at the whole COVID thing, the government, don't take it out on the workers in the stores. Don't take it out on the people out on the streets. Don't take it out on the guy spare changing on the corner. Take it out on the people up on Smith Hill. At the end of the day, take it up with those people.
Yeah. No, you nailed it. As frustrated as we might get, understand that if you were working as a cash register attendant or a clerk, whatever you want to call it, an associate, a team member, a participant, a family member, whichever cliche the stores want to make you think about, these are people who stand 6 to 8 hours a day, come into intimate, close contact with people who have a variety of illnesses, not just COVID, are not highly compensated for their work, have to play off the vibes of every single customer, and it's true of just about any retail job, have some sort of dark overlord standing in the corner watching them, so that if they should make one facile reaction that's out of line, they can write them up or subject them to some type of group humiliation, all for the purpose of serving you and me and Tina and everyone else in this damn state. And so taking it out on those people, in fact, a smile and a thank you and a stay safe go a hell of a long way towards elevating, the mood of people in general. And don't say it in an offhanded way. Damn it, make eye contact and mean it. Because these folks have to go to their homes, and they are not wealthy as a result of this job. And it's just a tough way to make a living. And many of them, if they had the choice or the opportunity, would be elsewhere. Circumstances, whatever they may be, put them in that position. We must also realize that there is always dignity in hard work, regardless of the job, the perceived perception of where that job stands in the greater scheme of things, the type of compensation. There is dignity in hard work, and everyone who works hard should be recognized that and respected for that. And that is a concept that we have lost in our own sort of superficial need for attention. And so let's be thankful that we've got each other, because Rhode Islanders have put up with a lot of crap over the last 30 years or so that I've been around here. Yet we're resilient, we're talented, we're tough. We could party like no other, and we live in an amazing place despite the best efforts of the people who allegedly run us. I just ask people to consider this year the notion that maybe they need to incorporate more independence in their lives, and we all need to look for ways to, on a voluntary basis, reach out to each other and help each other out. 1,000 ways that can take place. Think of one or two. That's all I ask.
I agree with you 100%, Pat. And my wish for everybody this year is you have the time, take the time to learn something new, appreciate something new, and look at things from a new perspective. Because in the toughest times in this world is when we find our biggest strengths. And when we overcome anything, we become stronger on the other side. And we need each other to do that. So be kind, be thoughtful, think of somebody else, and look at something through other people's eyes. And also, make sure you grab your red bag as a stocking stuffer to save all of your family's lives this holiday season. The Red Bag Initiative we had started, it carries all of your medical information on you at all times. It's non-tech based, which is great for any emergency or hurricane or power outage. All of your information is with you. You can go to www.rampisinclusion.com and grab your red bag today. For every red bag that is sold, we replenish and we donate a bag to the homeless, to the veterans, and to anybody who absolutely needs one. If you have a business, you can purchase a bunch of these bags, put one of your advertisements in the bags, and you can hand them out to whoever you want to hand them out to. So make sure you grab a red bag as a stocking stuffer this year. But the best thing I can say to everybody is to be kind and to learn, like I said, learn something new and find a small way to celebrate the small, whether it's getting out of bed and getting dressed today, because I don't do that often, at least from the bottom half down. I always put my sweater and my makeup on to get on Zoom, but, celebrate the small stuff. Enjoy your family and make memories. You don't need a lot of money to make memories. Play games, board games coming back. Do something different, write a letter, meet somebody new, and have fun. And I just want everybody to be thankful and have a safe holiday. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me tonight. I think this was a very informative, uplifting podcast tonight, and I can't thank you enough for being my guest tonight. So thank you very much. And
I just want to point out one thing. Tina, you, myself, Tony, we're all members of something called the Rhode Island Holiday Challenge. I'm going to be posting tonight a request. And folks, if you don't join, it's a simple little Facebook group. There's no drama here. It's probably not going to go viral. We're just asking Rhode Islanders to join up and share with us local companies, local vendors that they've had the opportunity to use. And we're not asking to pledge to only use local vendors. That's hard sometimes. But tonight, tomorrow, particularly tomorrow, when you're celebrating in the manner in which you choose to, and in many cases, the manner in which we can, given all the challenges that are out there, I just ask people to take a moment and post a shot of a picture, or maybe put a list of the names of local vendors that they supported while celebrating their Thanksgiving in this most difficult year. And let's use that as a stepping stone to everything we talked about tonight. Kindness, support for our fellow Rhode Islanders, support for the tribe, if you will, that is Rhode Island, the mosaic that is Rhode Island, and a shout out to a lot of local vendors, companies, caterers, food purveyors, you name it, who have had their business plans rejiggered, changed, reinvented, reimagined, probably 100 times over the last 2 weeks. And somehow all of these folks, as individuals and as a group, continue to amaze us with the quality of their products, their ingenuity, and sometimes the sheer stones in which they manage to get through every day. So it's the Rhode Island Holiday Challenge. It's just look up on Facebook. We're there. There's a pretty funny picture of a 20th century Thanksgiving versus a 21st century Thanksgiving that I think people get a kick out of. If you see that, just join up and share.
Yeah, so join the Rhode Island Holiday Challenge, and you can find out where Tony and the Sunny Side on the Street food truck is going to be, because he's going to post that on that page where he's going to be, so we can keep up to date and tabs on him and get some really good food on there. And you can also follow Ramp on there, and you can also grab your red bag from that page. And we want you to post your businesses and your asks and your needs so we can all support you. So make sure everybody, it's called the Rhode Island Holiday Challenge. It's on Facebook, and we'd love to have you join us. Thank you, everybody, for a great night. Happy holidays, and we will see you next Wednesday. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Tina.
Good night, Tina. Thank you.